This is week 2, day 3, Wednesday. Monday was Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So we didn't have class. Tech Club, we need to meet ASAP. Wanted to meet tomorrow, but hadn't talked about the students. We'll see if we can do that. This is NET-225, routing and switching. We're currently working on static routing. We did a lab, and we did not. We were going to do a course overview with a network, kind of show everything we're going to be doing in the class. We didn't get that far. Reviewed. The layer we're working at right now is right here. So we talked about static routes. We'll talk about some routing protocols. We'll do that a little bit more on Monday. We'll look at some examples. And then later on, we'll get started on that on Wednesday. This whole idea of routing, using a protocol to adjust the routes for you. We already talked a lot about routing, and then we talked about static routes. Now, in this area of static routes, we're thinking about a couple different types. So if we look at the network we have here we have the internet, and then Mason City, Rudd, Algona, Sioux City. I just made those up. This router can have a default route going out to the internet. So we get some address on the internet. The router doesn't have to know those addresses. It just says if those addresses are not on their internal network, then it just sends it to the internet and it gets routed there appropriately. Now, to save some traffic, this router here, for example, we can set up a default route going to this network. This one can have a default route going to this network, and this one can have a default route going to this particular network, or router I should say. Okay? So if we think about it, this router, we can have these default routes coming into that. And then if I use a different color, this router could have a static route coming back to here, a static route coming back to here, and a static route coming back to there. Okay? So that'd be one way to do it. But as the network gets more sophisticated, where we have routes here for redundancy, then we can have a routing protocol so that we still have our default routes here, but then the routing protocol would learn about all of these networks internally here and share that information with all of the other routers. So all the routers will know which way to send something based on a particular network. We're going to cover that more specifically on Monday. So this was the example the students worked on for a while today and the other day. We had these networks, and then in this scenario we defaulted. Here, let me go back here. Let's do this. In this case, we defaulted this way and defaulted that way. Defaulted up, default it up, and then we had static routes pointing back down to those particular networks. IP route, the network you want to go to, the mask, and then we can give either the interface, the next hop, or both. Okay. Okay, we did the lab. These were we use the red cables. So we skipped the switches and just hooked the PCs directly up the router with a crossover cable. Crossover cables. And then they configured based on the lab. So again, in this lab they had the case where they want you to create a default route here, so it would find these networks up here and this network over here. And then we created a static route to find this network over here and this router going back. Now on Monday we will finish up. On Monday we will finish up and review this lab, and then we'll also do a lab with IP version 6, and we can use the same routers we used today. And then there's a troubleshooting lab that we'll save for Wednesday of next week, and we also start dynamic routing on Wednesday. That is it.